Honestly, to be honest, every time I watch these videos of us, I'm like, oh, my voice really grinds my gears.
Does it? From my perspective,
Yeah.
I just think you sound great.
That's
I
good.
find you very easy to listen to. But I understand, because I do the same with my voice. I'm like, oh, I think it's just one of those things. Like, does anyone like their own voice?
It's like when you, well, obviously you've done a bit of singing. I'm sure everyone's done a bit of singing, but even when you listen to it, and I try so hard, like I've kind of learnt from photography to kind of look at the image as a whole. So I'm like, okay, let's listen to the whole thing as a whole, rather than, I realise my mind is just looking for the bad constantly.
Oh, yeah.
And then I realised if I did that with other musicians and singers, you can hear it in the same way, but you don't tend to do that because it's not you.
Yeah.
So you tend to, even if their voice is like imperfect, especially like in a lot of punk or rock, I actually am usually like, oh my gosh, I love, the way that they sound.
Yeah.
And then when it's with your own, you just, you can really pick at it. Like, oh god, that tiny bit just didn't quite sound right. And it's good to be a perfectionist, but at the same time, like, that rawness is quite nice.
I think we were saying this before anyway, when we were like the hyper focusing in on small details, because it's the same thing I do with photos of myself, and I have to remember to take a step back, look at the whole picture. And it's the same even with like editing our podcasts, because I'm like right zoomed into each like little detail. It's not until I take a step back and then watch it that I'm like, oh, I love it. Like the flow's good, I like what we're talking about, but like I can't see it when I'm in there and I'm being really critical of like myself in it. It's just, it's funny. I don't know if it's just our brains that do that because of our past, or if it's something that everyone does. It's probably a very human thing, isn't it?
I think it's quite a human thing, but I've realised recently that like my confidence is kind of coming back.
Yeah.
Whatever. And even just like around people, I'm more myself. But there's definitely a part of me that thinks, is like, oh no, you, like, I don't know how to describe it. So I don't know, even if I say, oh yeah, I'm actually thinking about making more content online, and to be totally honest, when I was younger, when I was like 12, I used to make YouTube videos. I literally had like 1,000 followers until my sister was like, what are you doing? And then I deleted it.
Just one criticism, ain't it? And it's done.
Yeah, because she was like, you're letting people into our home space, whatever. And it was just me sat in the living room or in the bedroom. And other things like social media, so on Instagram, I used to take selfies, I'd put up content like you see now.
Yeah.
And I remember a guy at school said like, oh, you love yourself? And I was like, that's not it. Like, that's not why I'm doing that.
Yeah.
But also, like, I do like myself. At that point, I did like actually like myself, because I worked really hard for everything. Like, I remember a guy once said, oh, your body looks really good. And I said, thank you, I work out a lot for it.
Yeah.
So thank you, I know.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think he's like expecting that. Whereas now I feel like I'm going back towards that way. I've been a bit grounded now as well though.
Yeah.
But I'm going back that way, but at the same time I'm almost like afraid, because even when I mention it to people now, they say, oh, I didn't think you'd want to do stuff like that. And they have this bad perception of what a content creator is and what the purpose of a content creator is, or they only focus on the fact that they might do some advertisements. And I was like, at the end of the day, you can use these platforms for good or bad, and you can use it to spread your message, and it might be a good thing. And I know from personal experience that I follow some amazing people who have helped my growth and who have helped me. Why not be with one of them? and why is it bad for me to think that I could be one of them? So I'm kind of in that space right now of like battling a little bit internally as to, can I step up to that and not care what other people think?
Do you know?
So that the right people can get access?
It's so funny that you would say that, because firstly I had to resist turning to the camera and breaking the fourth wall to do a joke about selling some like diet tea, but I won't do that. I've resisted that urge because we're not those type of influencers, content creators. But when I was thinking about like what I wanted to talk about today from like the last sort of week, this is the kind of thing that's been coming up for me, because firstly, like after we did the last podcast, just the whole like editing process and getting it out was really fun and like liberating, because it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, like just doing a podcast and, you know, being creative and putting something out. So that felt great. And then after it come out, then like people in work put it on like over the radio in the kitchen, and I was like, oh my god, like it's starting to come into my environment now that there's this thing that we've made that's out there and people can listen to it, and it's very like vulnerable. But then it has given me like a confidence back. Like the last time I probably felt this sort of confidence is back when I was like 16, 17. But that was obviously a very different era in the sense of who I was in myself, and that sort of confidence was like an ego confidence, like what I thought people wanted to see. Whereas now it's like, oh, I'm getting this confidence, but it's coming from myself, and people are seeing me and seeing my vulnerability and seeing these conversations, and it's a new sort of confidence, and it is really scary, because I'm like, you know, like at work I could hear them listening to it as I'm like rolling cutlery, and I'm like, this is so weird, because they're really hearing who I am right now, and am I like ready to step up to that plate? Am I ready to step up to this? And alongside everything else as well with like making this, and you kind of get a little bit of imposter syndrome, don't you? Like, who do I think I am doing this even? So it's like a lot of things kind of swirling together. But yeah, much the same thing for me on this end as well. Just getting that confidence has been nice, but also I'm feeling like how scared I am about it at the same time. So it's like confidence and a bit of fear, and just trying to like work through it.
Yeah, because it feels like a shift kind of thing, because you're now becoming that person. You are being that person that you want to be, but knowing that you're still imperfect. And like, I can really relate to the fact that you said about, you know, when you're 16, it was the same age for me, 14 to 16. Because I had a lot of my shit together then, to be honest, like, I wanted to be the top 1%, and I worked, like I've told you about this before, but like worked super hard, and like I was focused on my goals and everything, to a point where I didn't really care if I didn't care about parties, I didn't care about having a boyfriend, I didn't get any of that, I didn't really understand it, and I just thought, just focus on yourself, that's all that matters. Like, I had my head screwed on. But because I was very aware that I was different, there was an ego there that did look down on other people. Yeah. And like, I judged people when they ate badly or didn't treat their bodies correctly, or if they were fat, as I'd be like, they're fat, and I would judge them. I would never say any of this externally, but it was energy within me and commentary within me, because I was highly critical of myself, which is why I was like aiming for such like perfection. I was aiming for perfection, but that meant I was also very quiet around people I didn't know. Yeah. Because I guess I wasn't confident around them, because I didn't want to showcase that I wasn't perfect. And then I had my ego knocked down to the ground by becoming exactly what I didn't want to be.
Yeah. Wait, expand on that.
Oh gosh. So like at uni, I went, well, first, what it started with was not fitting in. Yeah. Because we had to move sixth form because we didn't have a sixth form, and we went to the sixth form, and people first accepted me in. This started, so after this it became a cycle within my relationships of all kinds. It was very weird, but they accepted me in. They really wanted to get to know me, but because I've realized, it's funny, I'm doing this photography project at the moment called Misfits, and kind of looking at the punk mentality that came in like the 70s and the 80s, even late 60s as well. And the punk mentality is not necessarily a way of looking, but it's the way you think, which is you don't want to fit in.
Yeah.
You want to be unique and self-expressive and yourself. You just, like, you want to go against the grain. And that mentality has been ingrained in me from the get-go, like since I was little. I loved that. I love it still, but that can really isolate you sometimes, because most people seem to not understand, because they want you to try to fit in, they want you to try to be their friend, and if you're honest, sometimes people don't like honesty. They can't take it, it's too much. Especially in an environment where everyone's got their little cliquey groups and whatnot, and I try to fit into that. No, I didn't try to, but I tried to, you know, I was like, let's make friends, that's a normal thing to do. But actually they almost called me in first, and then they rejected me. Pretty much for no reason. I think there was a lot of issues of miscommunication, judgment, without speaking to me, and often I realize I'm shy around people who I know are deep down judging me. Now I understand that, but at the time I'd be like, why can't I speak to them so openly and freely as I do with other people? It's because you can sense there's an underlying judgment, and you don't feel safe to be yourself. Mostly because you're hearing them judge other people, bitch about other people, whatever. Anyway, so that kind of led me into, and my dad actually gave me The Power of Now, the book by Eckhart Tolle. That was the first time I dipped my toe into spirituality. When I was really little, I think naturally spiritual, but then when I got more ego-based, I became more material-based and doing things for the approval of others, and it worked until
it didn't.
And like basically after year 11, I didn't get into my dream, like ballet schools. I started getting bullied and talked behind my back. So everything was so great, and then it went so wrong. It went so wrong, and I got into the space where I would just work. I just became a workaholic doing my art, because I was like, I'll just do it at lunch. I just needed to get through it, basically. And started dressing, I guess, more alternative, which is funny because it's like, why was that correlation? But it's because I was like, literally went into like all black, and it's almost like you're trying to be heard externally through your outward appearance, because no one's listening to who you actually are.
It's so, I mean, I asked, like, I wanted you to expand on it, because I wondered if this was like a similar journey to the one that I kind of went on, and it absolutely is. Because like when I was a kid, I was very naturally spiritual. Like I would always remember seeing like orbs and colours and questioning like these things, and having really lucid dreams, and My gran was always a real anchor point for that. I think grans and granddads are really good for that. They really kind of embrace the weirdness of who you are. I think when you get to that age, maybe you understand that that's important and that uniqueness is important. But it's very spiritual then. And then when I gained like weight from the age of 11 to 14, and then I lost all of the weight when I was 15 turning 16, so going into year 11. And I think losing the weight over that summer, I was like you were saying, I had my head really screwed on and I was focusing on myself, but it became about external appearance, and it became very ego based because everything was centered around me losing this weight, and it was all the attention that I was getting. I was going to all of these parties, it was all very social. And then I was still very judgmental of people that looked how I wanted to look. So the more popular groups of people, I was still really pushing out and keeping myself really isolated from mostly everyone because of that judgment that was underlying there as well. And then I ended up moving schools the same as you did. I moved schools and went to a different sixth form. And in like the first like few weeks, I was also very accepted by everyone there, and then pushed out and rejected. And it was interesting hearing like what you thought of your situation, because it was the same for me. I kind of found that I couldn't be open with those people because of because of how I was hearing them even talk about each other and the people within their friendship group. And then that became very like, you know, how I kind of like fell off of that social pedestal I had put myself on over the last couple of years. And I still went out during that time, but it got way more chaotic, way more messy. I was just embarrassing myself constantly in the pursuit of how I thought I needed to act and how I wanted to look to other people. So it was, a crazy time. I think I really built myself up, but because the foundation wasn't genuine and it was ego based, it fell away very quickly, and I had to pick up those pieces and figure out what went wrong and why it went wrong and what the situation was there.
That's crazy. Like, it's literally the same story. That's so true about it falling away so quickly, and then like for me it fell away for so long. It was like 7 years. And it kept happening. It kept happening.
And to me, it kept repeating.
Every relationship I had after that, it was an obsession. They always initiated it as well. It was never me. It was always someone else initiating it. Me going, okay, someone's gonna love me, appreciate me, and then they would reject me. And so rejection up until literally last September, maybe even November. I think around November it got to a point where I was rejected. No, actually it was New Year's time, so really, really recent. That was the last rejection I had that I went, I don't even feel like I care about it anymore.
It didn't destroy you. And this grace came over me of like, okay, I let it go. I'm not going to control it. I'm not going to try and impress them or try and tell them why they should stay, because it's tiring. It's so exhausting to like convince people. And right now I'm definitely in a season where, and I felt it happening around last year, February, March. I felt like, well, firstly, faith and like religion has kind of come into my life by accident. I didn't even go looking for it. But I feel like God, after that, pushed people out of my life who are not good for me, or people who will come back later. But right now I needed healing, and I needed to be alone, and I needed to like right now even, like I'll meet people here and there, and like I have connections like you, like far away. But most, like this whole week so far has basically been on my own. And I really thought about that today, because before it used to really bother me, and now
I only noticed it, and then my brain went, I should be crying. And I went, why? It's not going to be forever. You know, if I've had friends and things before, that's fine, but this is my season to be alone.
I feel that. Like, it's so... I love, like, this sort of topic and being able to, like, look back at all of, like, my history of being on this earth. Because I think, like, the way that I kind of set myself up to fail back when I was younger, I still repeated those patterns for many years afterwards, but it would kind of oscillate, and then each new, like, group of friends I'd bring in, I'd still be repeating these patterns in the sense of the version of myself I was projecting. I was still very damaged internally, and I was still projecting this ego, or whatever you want to call it, of like how I wanted people to perceive me, and it always just brought in people that didn't really know who I was, and then created the same sort of situations. And then it wasn't until probably like 2019 that I finally figured out like how to make friends like properly, because all of my friends like fell away, and it was a choice that I had made at that point, because I had recognized like, right, this isn't a supportive environment for me, but I also am facilitating this for myself. Like, I'm to blame in this, like I'm the one that's doing this. And it was when I was in America, like doing Camp America and teaching radio out there, and I was still repeating the same pattern. It was like a big group of new people. There's like 30 members of staff all from around the world, and you get excited and you want to like meet them all. But I was still like putting like going out and drinking all the time as my main personality trait, which is what I did since I was like 16. And it wasn't until I stopped and just thought, what am I getting out of this? Because I don't really like drinking. I get drunk after like 2 drinks. I'm an utter state in a nightmare, and I'm not really getting anything out of this. I'm doing it because I think I'm making friends this way, but who knows what I'm missing if I just stop doing this and look around and maybe there's other things going on. And then I stopped doing that. I was like, right, I'm not going to go out this evening, I'm going to stay at the camp. And then when I did that, I was just hanging out like in our staff room, and then the people that weren't going out drinking and doing all of that stuff were the people I really clicked with. And I was like, oh, we've got so much in common. And those are the people that I'm still friends with now. Like, there was a girl there, Jess, and we really related on all of the like body stuff and like how we viewed ourselves, and that the camp was actually like a real challenge for us, because you're living like bare necessity. You don't have access to all the stuff that you'd have to like get ready at home, and we would talk about all that, and it was real growth for us. And my mate Matt, who lives in Canada now, we're still very close. But like, these people I wouldn't have been able to pick out of who was there if I didn't start actually just doing what was right for me and putting myself into situations that I actually wanted to be in. So that was really when I first thought, oh, the people that I want to find have always been there. I just haven't looked in the right place because I'm too busy doing this other show for other people. It's just, it took me all that time to actually realise that, which was insane.
It's so relevant right now, because I'm doing photography project for my final module, and it's going to be about clothes, but I'm doing it, like I said, on the misfits. So the people, especially in Cheltenham, like most people do conform to not being seen, like just blending in, which there's nothing wrong with, but like that's why I find it even more interesting when someone chooses to fully express. And it's not even them, I think the best way I can describe this way of dressing is not even them expressing themselves, but exploring themselves.
Yeah.
They're like exploring and playing with the idea of who am I, and that can change on the daily, and it can be ridiculous and playful and colourful and dark or spiky or whatever the hell it is. And you can show it visually. I can't wait to take those pictures, but it'll be really, I'm actually more excited to just meet the people. Yeah. And see if there's like a connection there, because it was through this, a lot of creators will like understand what I'm saying here in terms of your art is often just a self-growth tool. By accident. It's just so interconnected with who you are. So like, you might think, oh, I'm going to do this random project, but actually ends up being a spiritual growth. journey for you as well. So yeah, it's very, very cool. So I'm excited to be doing that. But because I've been stuck between these two sides. One side that's like, I want to be like this classy, clean look, whatever person with all neutrals and all this. And then the other side, which is like super creative, super explorative, and just like does whatever the hell she wants.
You could be both those things, can't you? I think that's what you're saying. It's like, when this is what I noticed in like how I made like genuine friends. It's like, what do I want to do right now? Do I want to go out and do this thing, or do I? And I was like, no, actually, I just want to go and sit and do this. And it's the same with like your style, ain't it? Like, what do I want to wear today? How am I feeling today? And going with that, rather than doing like what you think you have to do. Or does that make sense?
Kind of, but I've realized like I've always battled with this because we're also multifaceted, and I don't actually think that I am both necessarily. I think one is more attuned to people pleasing than the other.
Fair.
And I can't tell them apart because it's so ingrained. That's because there is a discomfort there that I think I'm both. So if it's uncomfortable, that means I'm running away from one.
Okay. And
that's how it feels.
I mean, also we do live in this like dualistic world, so it is probably hard to identify in that space which one's more you and which one isn't. But then maybe like with your project, just sitting in the moment and seeing what comes up in the moment, that's the only way you're going to figure it out, ain't it?
Thing is, I don't think it's like a label. Like one of like the creative one is not labeled because you can't label it because it's mine. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be the same as any other creative counterculture person because that's theirs. Whereas the other one will be loved by everyone.
Yeah.
You know, because it looks pretty. It looks aesthetic. It fits with the feminine ideals. All these kinds of things. Like I actually hear a voice in my head a lot of the time, like, you know, if I wanna skate, and it's seen as this rough sport, but I like being feminine.
Yeah.
So again, it's this societal thinking and my thinking.
Societal. And real. The two spheres.
Thing is, my brain's already been going since, like, it's almost like, does it matter?
Yeah.
You know, my brain's like, wait, hang on a second. Why am I even talking about this? Why does this even matter? And like,
but what's coming up now then? Now that you've had that thought, you're like, let's just ditch this, move on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
sometimes it takes an interruption, doesn't it? And then you're like, actually, I think that's fine. Summed it up. Next thing.
I think the best way to describe it is, let's say you're being a child, like you're a child, you're just in the moment, aren't you? So you would just wear what you want in the moment with what you have. Whereas that's
what I'm doing right now. I'm wearing these like fucking floral print shorts and a bright green t-shirt. So I only noticed just before I was ready to film. I was like, what am I wearing? But also that is just it, isn't it? You just got to do whatever you're pulled to do in the moment for yourself. Express yourself in that way. Because I think all the other stuff we were saying, it kind of gets murky when you're doing things for an effect or for a reaction or from other people. Is it because you want this, or is it because you want something from the external environment from what you're doing? And that is hard to differentiate at first.
Yeah, because I think I've always had this identity crisis. I've realised it because I went into the sketchbook, I was like, oh, I have like a sketchbook that's not full. And then I looked and I was like, oh, it's from my last dissertation, which was about authenticity. So it's funny how we've reverted back to a very similar topic. And then I had a flashback and I was like, oh, in my sixth form photography, I did a photo shoot, and it was inspired by this woman called Tracy Emin. And is that her? I'm not sure. But she does like self-portraits and dresses herself up in things like that. And I remember I did these self-portraits where one, I was dressed up as a chav, and one was like really proper, like classy, like as if I was going to work or something, which can I say always makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Oh god, yeah. When I had to wear a suit, like when I worked at the MOD wearing a suit every day, that was so like just traumatic. I hated that experience. No thanks.
Yeah, because this topic literally came up because I work in this new place, and I thought I'd apply there even though it's somewhere I would never shop, and like personally, like it's got nice stuff in, but it's not for me. Like the lifestyle it caters to everything. I won't say too much just because.
Don't want an email.
But like I thought, oh, it'd be a good challenge to like work somewhere that maybe I don't actually fit into, I guess, or whatever. But I remember the first day, put on like this tweed jacket and like had a shirt on, which I don't think I've worn a shirt since like I don't even know. And she was like, how do you feel? And I was like,
great.
I feel horrible. I obviously can't say that, but I just felt like so uncomfortable, and I was like, how am I supposed to be myself in this?
Do you know what is funny to me is kind of different for me, like with the uncomfortableness in that sort of smart attire. The uncomfortableness for me came because I was physically uncomfortable, because I always had an ideal in my head of the size that I should be. So I would only buy waist 32. I would only buy small. You know, I'd only buy a 38-inch waist. And this come up again for me like the other week because I've got my cousin's wedding on Saturday, and I bought like smart trousers and a nice shirt and I bought all this nice stuff and I'm really excited about it. But for the first time ever in my life, I just bought clothes that were my actual measurements. So I bought a 34-inch waist pair of trousers.
Probably look nice as well.
Yeah, 40-inch like blazer, and I've never done that before. So even though it feels normal to me right now, it's still something I'd never done before. And I was like, oh my god, this is like a step in the right direction. I'm actually just buying things that fit me, and I'm ditching the labels, I'm ditching this idea of what I told myself I had to be, and now I'm just comfortable. So like even in such little ways, you just kind of realise what you've been doing to kind of like just make yourself feel like you never fit in as well, when like, you know, you can just do whatever makes you comfortable, rather than what I was doing in the past and constantly never fitting into any clothes that I ever bought.
It's
and
like,
then beating myself up.
It's weird how we've both clearly had that like this body dysmorphia, isn't it? And like I still notice it now. Like I'm the same. I stopped like making a big fuss out of sizes, although there is still that voice that says, when I get into a smaller size and it's just like happy, and I notice it and I'm like, why do I feel better about myself because of this? So it's easy to kind of tiptoe back over there. And then you're like, oh no, I'm doing these things again, or I'm thinking this way again. And I don't know whether, like for me it's definitely been one of, if I could heal anything forever and never think about it, it would be my relationship to food and my body. Like every time I think it's like healed, it comes back, and it's just like, there's people out there who live not thinking about this.
Oh no, that's the crazy thing to me, because it's always a thought, you know. It's even though it's something that I've largely got through, I think the bulk of, it's still like, even though those those trousers, for example, finally fit me and I feel great in them, there's still a part of you that's like, not a 32 though, is it? Like, I can't help that thought come up. But then I feel like, even though that thought's there, at the, like, even just thinking of it now, I'm like, is it impacting me in the same way as it used to though? Like,
No.
yeah, the thought comes up because it's like it's just going to, because of the life I've lived.
Yeah.
But it actually isn't affecting my energy anymore. Like, the thought can come up, but I don't feel affected by it. I can just move on. And I think that's where the differences kind of come in.
No, I agree, because I would cry a lot.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll have a flashback of it, actually, because I think it's almost reminding me like how far I've come. So like I'll notice a certain part of my body, or I weigh a certain whatever, which I don't really weigh myself at all, really, whereas before I used to every single day. And I used to cry and just give myself such a hard time. It was not nice, and I'd remember that, and then I'd be like, don't bother me anymore, like, it's there, I would like it to be better, but it's not. And that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm human, like, I am trying, and I can't, like, beating myself up over it is not gonna make it any better. And also, I know for a fact that I see myself differently to how the world sees me. So that's always a good thing to have in your head, I think. Whenever there's a bad thought, you just go, oh, but, you know, that's not how everyone sees me.
Oh, do you know, it's so funny, because just from you saying that, I think the first time I ever realised that the way people see me is different to how I was seeing myself is the first job that I had when I was like 18, working at the MOD, or like 19, because I'd have to go in and do like meetings, and I was like terrified and so nervous and beating myself up, and I thought I just spoke like an idiot and nothing I said made sense. And then at the end of each meeting I do, people would come and be like, oh, that was really great, you were really well spoken, you didn't seem nervous at all. And I remember thinking then, I was like, how can I feel so different and feel like things are going so differently to how other people are seeing them? And that's when I started to catch like, oh, I'm just, the way that I'm like berating myself in my own head is really unnecessary and causing me a lot of distress when it doesn't need to be. And I don't know, I think a lot of the experiences I had from like 18 to now have helped me realise that you can do anything that you put your mind to, and to be kinder to yourself, because everyone feels these things.
I think about a lot, this came up because you said about being kinder to yourself, and I always think, like, if it was a child, would you do the same thing? And unfortunately some people do, which is why we pick these things up, but like, ideally they probably don't want to either. Ideally we don't want to speak to a child like in a really angry, annoyed way, and be really hard on them. Instead we want to say, well, how are you feeling, why are you feeling this way, and be gentle. And I really thought about this today in terms of when I was little, I would pretend I had this I used to play mum a lot.
Yeah.
And I would mother myself outwardly. I would talk. I'd imagine a child, even though I was a child, I would imagine having a child and being a mum, and I would mother her, but actually I was mothering myself. I'd be like, okay, we're going to go to bed now, which is why I wanted to make videos, because I used to basically vlog to myself. I'd be like, so today we're gonna have some water because it's really good for us in the morning. Like, I would do all of that. And now it's so funny watching people's content, because I'm like, whoa, this is what people are doing, and I did this as a, I don't know what I was doing.
It's
when
like
I was
holding
a
yourself
kid,
accountable
I
or something.
don't know what I was doing, but I was always teaching myself.
Yeah, it's very meta.
I don't know what that means. What do you mean?
Meta is like self-referential. Like, oh god, what's a good example? Like, you know, in a film, if they call out popular culture or they make it seem like real life, it's very meta because it's like referencing itself at the same time.
Right.
So like you doing a vlog where you're talking to yourself, you're referencing yourself without addressing it, so it's like very meta.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be like, I'm doing this. It'd just be like, I'm speaking to a child, but I was speaking to myself.
When you were saying that, it reminded me like about speaking, like how would you speak to a child? And I find like with everything that we've just been speaking about, when you start to be kinder to yourself, or when you start to want to put yourself first, even if you don't know how to do it, it's funny like the opportunities that come up to kind of give you an opportunity to see like what you'll do now. And when I was in America, which was like a big turning point for me, there was a young kid there who, so like I had a massive anxiety of going into the water, and I think everyone just thought it's because I didn't like the water, but it's because of the body dysmorphia, and I didn't want anyone to see my body and have anything to say about it, any comments, so I just never wanted it seen, basically. And I went down to the water this one day and I avoided everything. I never did anything fun. I didn't go out on the boats to begin with because I just didn't want to do it. And there was this little boy sat there on his own whilst everyone else is in the water. Obviously he was being supervised and they were checking on him, but he was just sat there. And I went up to him and I was like, oh, what's going on? Like, and he was just crying. He was like, I've just got so much anxiety, I can't get in the water. And I was like, okay, it just come out of me because it was this little kid sat there in the same situation that I'm still in as an adult. And I was like, look, I am terrified of the water. And then I just started to tell this kid exactly like why. I was like, I'm just terrified of the water. I don't like getting in it. I don't think I went into my body problems because he was like 6, but I was like, I'm scared too. So like, you're scared, I'm scared. Let's do it together, because before you do something that you have anxiety about is always the worst bit, but the actual doing it part of it never feels how you think it's going to feel. And it was like I was talking to myself. Yeah. And then as I was saying it, I was like, this is true, and I'm just basically saying it to myself right now, and now I need to practice what I'm preaching. And because I said that to him, I was like, well, let's do it together. And we went into the water, and it was so hysterically funny. Like, he was having the best time, and like we were throwing seaweed at each other constantly, and just like, you know, just having a laugh. And like, I felt really free because I was finally in the water, and I was like, I actually love this. So it's funny how you catch yourself saying these things, and then it is you saying it to yourself as well, and then you catch it and you're like, I need to listen to myself there and actually do that. Yeah, because this is a healing moment.
I love that story because you've told me that before, and I've literally told someone else about it. I was like, a friend of mine did this, and I was like, I just love that story so much. I just think it's so good because it is the perfect portrayal of inner child. But like the fact that it's manifested in your physical is just so special, and like you can help someone else in that way.
It makes me emotional, like I feel like teary now, because that kid had so much anxiety, and he was like 6, and I was like, bless him, like God knows what's going on in his like home life or where this is coming from and why he's so scared of the world. But at the end of him being there, he won like an award for the most like fun like kid to be around and always like looking out for other people, because as soon as he kind of cracked that barrier, he was so caring and empathetic to every person around him, which you find with people that have these sorts of traumas. Like once they kind of move through it, or they find a way to be kinder to themselves, they have massive empathy for everyone else because they understand like the darker corners of the mind. Even this 6-year-old, and he was so lovely and caring to everyone that he literally brightened up the day of everyone that he come into contact with, and he didn't even know he was doing that. And I just thought it was so beautiful and so pure, and it was like a blessing to see like that full transformation, and for him to like win that award. And even just like when we were all voting on it as staff members and everyone was bringing him up, and they were like, oh, I'm just so happy to see this change in him, like he was such a diamond, and he couldn't see that in himself. And that was like the sad thing. And then when he won that award, he was like, oh my, like I just know that must have really given him something.
Yeah. And like,
so it was beautiful.
Maybe he doesn't get that like affirmation at home, unfortunately. And I think a lot of parents don't mean to do this, but a lot of parents do criticize or put their worries on top of, or try and fix situations that don't need fixing before they affirm and say well done, or you know, say actually say well done for the good things that the child's doing. So then the child thinks, I'm the problem, I can't do anything right, so I don't want to be, human interaction brings criticism, and I don't want that. So they keep to themselves, and they don't show who they are, and that stunts growth, which is a really, really big shame, because like you said, these kids, you know, he's caring and empathetic, and they're probably highly sensitive, and there's nothing wrong with highly sensitive children.
But that was me as well. I was that kid, so I think that's probably why that moment happened, where I could have that conversation, because it was like talking to myself as a kid. I was exactly the same way. I was always a very sensitive child, but then I came to see that as a very negative part to my personality, and then hid myself away and, you know, would just like journal everything like really angrily, and like get, you know, and I had this such a and I like literally I'd write all over everything, and like when I was like 9, I remember writing all over my bed and like behind things and underneath like my table, and it was weird like where my mind went, but it was because I was hiding like a part of myself, because it's just who I was, and I started to view it negatively, like I had to be more of a man, or I had to, you know what I mean, it was these sorts of things. And then now that I'm older, I'm like, I'm an open person, and I am sensitive, and it's such a strength, and now I see it as such a gift. But at the time,
that definitely leads me to my song.
Ideal.
Because it's actually, don't really listen to him, but he's quite a recent musician, MJK. And he sang this song called Twin Flame. And in the video itself, firstly, the song is about his relationship with, I'm sure people know, Megan Fox, his wife, and then also about a miscarriage. So the last bit is about his unborn child. And the performance itself that I watched, he's like shaking, and he's made a big transition in music genre, and who he is as a person as well. And in the comments, everyone's just like praising the vulnerability. Accounting that he's a man, and everyone, there's other men there praising it. And I just also watched a video by, I don't know who it's by, but is this guy who's like a fitness influencer, but he's also, I think he's also Christian or something, and he did a little talking video. Most of his videos I think are like, you know, him in the gym and workouts and whatever, but this video is just a talking one. Most of his subscribers are men, and he gets teary in it. He's open, he's honest, he's emotional, he's vulnerable, which he was saying, you know, when he was younger, they were kind of, he was a bit of a simp, and like he would just kind of be walked all over and things like that. But there's just all these people, all these men in the comments saying like thank you, and they respect him for showing the vulnerability, and there's this space, and I feel like people want that now, especially men, of just openness and vulnerability and emotion, because that's still being a man, because you're able to carry that part of you. And the same goes for creative men. Often if you're emotionally highly sensitive man, you're creative, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, look at people like Harry Styles. He dresses the way he wants, he wears feminine things, but he doesn't look feminine one bit.
I read an article from his fashion, the guy who does his styling for him. I don't even know how I come across it, but I read it literally like an hour ago. It was just as I was scrolling, and it was just interesting to read, because he was like, all of this is so like out of the box, and like just punk. You know, I think they mentioned about it being very like punk, and he's just very game to do all of it and just like see how he feels in everything. And I'm like, yeah, that's good to have that openness and just see like what lands for you, rather than just staying in this like rigid box. But also, like you're saying, with men wanting this space now, I think it's because people see the impact of what happens when you keep that all inside. like, you know, loads of people have been touched by suicide or been touched in their own family by men that have been closed off, and the outward aggression that comes from that because their needs aren't being fulfilled and their goals aren't being met. Like, people see it, they see it in their environment now, and I think that's why change is really happening in that respect, because people know what happens if that vulnerability can't be brought out of you, and you don't have a space to share that in, like, people to see what that outcome is, and it's not a good one. So that's why there's a change.
It's so important for connection, isn't it?
Yeah, so important. Like, you need vulnerability for connection, like genuine connection, not like artificial connection.
I was also going to say there's a V&A exhibition happening where I think they've got some photos of like Harry Styles and stuff, but it's about fashion, so I'm gonna go to that. It's like an exhibition, which should be very cool. It's only like 20 quid, but that'll be awesome. But yeah, I feel like people tend to go like one or the other in terms of like women need to heal this or men need to heal this, and we point fingers and whatever, and it's like, no, it needs to be both ways. Men need to be able to be more emotionally open and vulnerable, but also women need to rein it in a little bit, and, you know, tap into their emotional sides, but be able to control when their mind is going out of control, you know, because it is within our who we are as women. It is because we look for signs of danger because we will be mums or whatever, hopefully, or if you don't want to, you don't, but it is within our body to look for danger, over analyze things in people so that we know whether we want them around, because we're trying to protect a child. So that's, you know, our brains are nurturers. We want a nurturing environment, we want nurturing people, so sometimes it like overanalyzes it and goes a little bit insane. So you have to learn about who we are as animals first, and then consciously choose how can we make this world better by, you know, tweaking a few things and learning and adapting, and then finding like a middle ground where we're not clashing heads anymore. And like you said, like that anger in men is definitely a problem. There was a show on Channel 4, and it was, I can't remember what it's called, but I'll link it. It was basically in a primary school, this guy went in and took away he made it kind of gender neutral, so there was no like honey and whatever, those kinds of terms. And originally the boys were really confident, most of the boys put their hands up, but they showed more signs of anger and no other emotion.
Right.
And then the girls were super quiet, super reserved, they didn't ever really put their hands up, they weren't confident, their confidence was super, super low, but they had that emotional capability. By the end of the experiment, they both had 50-50 of those things. The girls were putting their hands up more, they were feeling more confident, and still had that emotional capability, and then the boys started being able to be more emotionally open and stuff, and not just showing it through anger. So a lot of the time men are angry, but they're not angry, it's something else, it's sadness or it's frustration, but they only know anger, so it ends up just showing as that. But yeah, this show, it was really interesting actually. It's a while ago I watched it.
That does sound interesting.
It stuck with me though.
It's so funny, ain't it? Because I think because of the nature of like men and women, it's easy to think one's one way, one's the other, and not realise that there is like a merging of both energies that are needed. You need to tap into both sides in yourself. Like, you can't understand the other if you're not tapping into the same things internally yourself. And you need that you need the abstract emotion. Like, you need emotion and you need that side of things, and you also need to be able to directly communicate it. So you need both of those things. You need to understand that the abstract side of yourself and how to communicate it, and that is like the merging of the masculine and feminine energies together. And I feel like we're going to be entering an era where that's more on the forefront of like everyone's tapping into every side, rather than it being like, you know, restricted in certain aspects, and then all of the problems that come from it.
Okay, yeah, so I was gonna say, it's like the thing we were saying last time about knowing that the moon impacts stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like, nature is real. Like, our hormones are real. The different bodies are real. Like, the masculine and feminine being more prominent in one and the other is real. But we can still find, like, a balance in terms of being a bit more neutral in terms of, like, emotional and confidence and receptivity and giving. Like, that doesn't need to be just like one or the other. But I think a lot of people tend to kind of, like, with feminist stuff right now, oh god, I'm being filmed. But
yes, Leyla, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah. Like, I understand the movement, but to me it's a very angry movement, and it's actually women being more masculine. Like, we're very much, if you're being a feminist and you're angry, you're coming from your masculine, which is actually defeating the point of bringing women to the forefront and bringing us into a place of being respected. Like, for example, why can't we go into work and be feminine and still be respected, for example? Why do we have to, you'll notice a lot of feminists, they'll go to work in suits, in their angry manpower, and then they feel respected. But then
there's a problem with the
but now we're becoming men to be respected, so it's actually adding to the problem. Instead, you get the power back by being soft and still loving and it's not being soft in terms of you take people's shit. Feminine power is strong. Like, it's still strong. It has boundaries. It's loving yourself to a point where no one can fuck with your boundaries. So, like, if it doesn't serve you, you know to walk away. That's feminine energy. You let go. You receive love. You allow that. Whereas feminist movement is very much about, no, I'll do it. I'm going to do this. I'm independent. We need each other. We need each other. Like, men and women need each other. Humans need each other. Doing that is not gonna work out any better, and it's only gonna make the other sex feel shit and angry as well. It's just creating a war, and I don't really agree with it.
I feel like it's one of them, because it is like a very obviously masculine society. Like, it's almost like a byproduct, ain't it? Like, this feminist movement feels like it needs to become more masculine to beat that system, but in reality it's bringing real feminine energy to the forefront of yourself, rather than hiding it away or not expressing it, or, you know what I mean? Like, bring the masculine energy into the feminine energy and communicate it outwards, because it's beautiful and, like you're saying, needed. We need these energies, you know? We
need feminine energy within our society. We need to slow down. We need to be more receptive. We need to be warmer and more collaborative. We need women to step up in their own energy, even if it is talked down on. Even if. And I think the message has gotten lost in terms of course I want equality, but we are different. We are not the same. We are not the same. We are different, but we all deserve equal treatment, respect. in who we are.
Yeah.
Like,
freedom
that's what
of
it
true
is.
expression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just gotten very mixed. And people are
It's the same with all of
confused.
these movements. It's just like, I just don't like it. I just don't like any big movements that are like that, because it's like, focus on you, focus on yourself and what your authenticity is and what your true energy is, and focus on bringing that to the forefront. Then you're doing the absolute best you can do for the world by doing that for yourself. And that's kind of how I see it. When you have these big groups and organizations, it gets very externalized and very lost, rather than it being about the true energy of the person.
I feel like
You
if
know?
it has that underlying energy of anger,
Yeah.
then there's an issue.
Yeah.
And it's just a load of unhealed, angry people together, moving together, which is a terrible. That's how wars start.
Oh, we're a nightmare.
And-
We're a nightmare as a race.
There's nothing wrong with anger, but like, sit with the anger and then choose love. And that's not like, I think a lot of people would be like not very happy hearing that. It might be very triggering, because it's saying, you know, we live in a world now where it's like, stand up for yourself and do this, and we must do, you know, stand up for the right things. Yes, we do, but some things don't need a voice. Sometimes silence speaks louder. Sometimes we don't need to add more drama into drama, because it's actually going to create more peace in this world than adding your two pence into it. Like, you don't need everyone's voice. We don't need it. Just use that voice to focus on you, to write your own books, or whatever. But to be honest, like, just live. Like, I feel like, I think it's in the Stoic or something like that. I read it every day, or maybe the Zen. I don't know. I read those kind of like Eastern philosophy stuff. And it's very much about, what was he saying? Oh yeah, like, we don't need to write necessarily a book. There's thousands of books. It's nice if you write a book. It's nice if you, like, even what we're doing here, it's nice putting your thoughts out there. But you don't have to.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to just sit and not be heard. Because if everyone was just a little bit unbothered, it would be a nice world. It would.
I like that, yeah. Because it is true. Just live your life.
Just stop taking it all so damn seriously. The cards that I'll actually pull one out now, but I keep pulling card in the morning, and every day it comes out with play. And it says
every day.
Every day, and it says something like, don't be so serious. And I think it's such a, I think it's something everyone needs to hear.
This feeds into my song quickly before you do a card. Because I wasn't going to do this song, but it's my most listened to song, like, of the year so far. And it is a song that I listen to not take myself seriously and just dance, because it's so high energy.
Nice.
So it's a song, I can't pronounce it because it's Portuguese, but it's called Bagunça, and it's by an artist called Pedro Sampaio, and he's from Brazil. Very high energy, like dance sort of culture in Brazil. But I play it anytime that I just want to, like, dance and just not take myself seriously. It's the first song on my own playlist, because I'm like, it just sets the tone for like that vibe, and I love it.
It's so funny, because my song was also one that I didn't even plan one at all.
Yeah.
And I was originally going to say something else, because I thought, oh, that's a bit more relevant and it's like positive, but it's interesting how we both chose songs that are just like random as hell. But also the fact that mine's like this vulnerable one and yours is that playful side. So it's again tapping back into what we were saying about finding balance. And okay, let's reflect and let's be internal for a little bit and vulnerable, but also let's just have fun. You know?
Yeah, let's have fun is so important.
I feel like when you have good friends and family and stuff, what they usually do is listen to you when you're sad, and then they go, all
Yeah.
right, come on, let's go do something. You know, they kind of like snap you out of it. I really appreciate that.
Me, my mum, and my brother were doing that earlier. Like, you know, we were chatting, like as you do, checking on each other, and then my mum just had like the Eurovision played us on, and we were just in the kitchen, just like dancing around and being silly and goofy. And I'm like, that's something my little brother really inspires in me as well, because he really knows how to get a laugh out of someone when it's needed. Like, he's just so funny in that way, and he'll bring that silliness and lightheartedness that I often need, because I can find myself getting too serious sometimes, and he really brings that element, and that's also what that song brings to me as well. It like gets me into that playful state that is needed.
My mum and my sister are the same. Like, sometimes they just do the stupidest shit, and my ego's like judging them or whatever, and I'm like, thank you, you know, like I'm so grateful to have you in my life to just slap me out of this a little every now and then, because sometimes I do take it too seriously, and it doesn't need to be so serious.
I agree. That is exactly, that's what I say to them.
That perfectly leads us into the card today, which is Starseed, what lights you up. Starseeds are souls with a double mission: to raise their own consciousness and the consciousness of the planet. They are old souls who have incarnated elsewhere beyond this planet. Many starseeds arrive with a feeling that time is running out, and that there is something that they came here to do or create or contribute. If you pull this card, it is to confirm that you're a starseed, and you're being encouraged to answer the call to follow what lights you up. Once awake, most starseed souls find it hard to have meaningless conversations, jobs, and relationships. They innately know that there is much more to life and feel that there is something more, and get to work. They remain restless until they step into their calling, which is to light up the world with their unique presence. Starseeds are scattered all over the planet, in hospitals and schools, in slums and mansions, on stages and in edit suites, in parks and nightclubs, in taxis and theme parks. Many starseeds spend parts of their lives trying to fit in, or in some form of spiritual closet. If you are dimming your light to fit in, it is time that you stop and start embracing the unique light. I'm laughing. I'm so laughing at this.
There's too many things that I'm laughing at in that.
Isn't it?
It's too many.
It's so like everything we just spoke about. Unique light that you came here to share, and treat your time on Earth like a glorious vacation. That's another one. I keep telling myself, because I watch these videos back and I'm like, oh, Leyla, chill out at the cards, but like, it's very difficult.
I love watching your reactions and reading the cards, because obviously you're reading it before I'm hearing it, and it's just funny to me because they're always so dead on. Like, how could you not have that reaction? It's just funny.
It's just funny. Like, that one made me laugh because that was like 5 things that we spoke about.
I was laughing about the spiritual closet, that made me laugh. Lightening up. There was loads of things in there where I was like, we literally just said all of that.
To be honest,
but then it makes you laugh so much that it's putting us into that energy where we're like, we're on that vacation actually. Let's just lighten the load and have a bit of fun. Like, this makes me laugh like that.
We're all good. And then the second card is 3 because I feel like they're relevant. The second one is super short because it just says yes.
Yes.
So it's literally called just say yes, and then it says don't overthink it, just say yes.
Fair. Live in the moment.
And what were we saying? You know, like, that's literally the energy that happened when we were talking about the clothes. I just went.
We've come back and you were like, actually done with that.
I'm done because
I'm
just going to say yes to whatever I'm doing right now. And then the final one, which actually came out this morning for me as well, was the Great Gathering. It's all coming together, intuitive hits, soul tribe. And I love the picture. I don't know if they can see that. Wait, let me find it. The Great Gathering. This will be the last one. You're being called to let your intuition move you physically. You're connected to a group of souls who are weaving a web around the planet, and as you travel and share your creations, something is rethreaded. This card is an acknowledgement that you are either being called to connect with others who are like you at a soul level, or that you already are.
The look to the camera like, that's you. That's you guys.
You are being called to gather groups of people, either by leading them or becoming a part of a group that can support you and your soul's personal mission. We're all here. You are part of a group of souls who agree to be here at this time in history to heal yourselves, your ancestral line, and the planet. To raise consciousness so that we can continue to call this magnificent place home for eras to come. One of many consciously choosing to devote your life to something greater than yourself. It's time to call in your tribe by sharing your soul's voice and letting yourself be seen. Yeah, guys, like, even though me and Mike are like doing this right now, go do your own work as well. Go put your own podcast out, film yourself, do your vlogs, share your writing under your Instagram post, whatever it is. Like, just do it. Like,
just do it.
You know, this isn't about us. It's kind of almost like, I'd rather you not watch this, but like watch one, be inspired, and then go live your life. I swear. Yeah. I swear. Please.
This is us finally being seen. Like, we're allowing ourselves to be seen, which is the most beneficial element of doing this. And it's the same for any creative outlet that you have or you've been wanting to do. Like, I've wanted to do a podcast for years and never done it.
Yeah.
So this is more about our self-growth and being seen for all of the things that we say. And yeah, if you've got something like that yourself, do it. Just do it. Don't wait. Don't delay.
And also, we enjoy doing it. So even if you watch one and then you go and actually live your life and we've done our job, then that's fine, because we're still enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you do you. So when you share what is real and true to you, and you share the medicine that you most need, those who are like you will gather around you. You are your tribe. They are just like you. And just as you are longing and searching for them, they are longing and searching for you too. I choose now to let myself be seen. I am ready to call in my soul tribe and create a web of light all over the planet. Amen.
Yes,
that's a good one.
I love that, because I think it just speaks to the fact that when you stand in your own energy and be seen for it, like, of course then you start to find people that are like you, because you're outwardly showing exactly who you are, and then you can find those people because they can see it.
Makes sense, doesn't it? So
it makes sense. No more fake shit. Fake relationships.
You're like, good, say friends. Well, shit.
Well, shit.
I also like that these videos don't go out the same week as we talk, because although it's vulnerable, it would be horrible if it was like on time, like every week. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, if we put this out this week, I'll be like, oh no.
Oh, I like the process of then being able to come back to it and watch it like the week after, because I absorb so much more from that, you know, that I wouldn't even absorb in the conversation. It's so weird to then step out of us in first person and then watch it back, because I like hear things that I missed before, or you know what I mean. It's just weird. It's weird how you absorb differently from doing that. I'm
like so impatient as well. Sometimes I'm like, I want to see the next one. But anyway, Mike, I gotta go because I'm gonna go skydiving.
Okay, that's a curveball.
Yeah, I just thought that the sunset was really nice, and I met someone in town, and they said that that they have a private jet or something, and I could come, so I'm going. Might as well see the sunset from up there, so I'll see you later.
Well, yeah, have the best time. Much love to you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Send me a pic.
I will.